Chapter, and this will be part 8 of my faith journey. If you haven't watched parts 1 through 7, please go back and watch those in chronological order, and this will make a lot more sense to you. Now today, I'm not having a specific point in my journey that I'm going to share. I've had all these bits going through my mind about where this journey has taken me and things along the way. And I think today I want to talk about my husband and myself and how far we've come. And what strikes me, if I'm just looking into myself and giving thanks, is that in our early marriage, I never felt loved. I didn't feel loved by my husband. I didn't feel truly loved by anybody. And I certainly didn't feel loved by God. But as I learned about God and His love, and how it's unconditional, that agape love I spoke about in my other video, I began to realize that even though I had many failures and was not the person I should be, God loved me and He wanted to help me to get to be where I should be, and that He could work in my heart to make me a more loving person, a person who is easier to love as well, and to do the same for my husband. Now, early on, when I felt unloved, there was a deep sadness in me. And now, there isn't a deep sadness in me. There's a joy. And that joy is there even through the hard times. Because I can be upset and troubled, but if I dig deep, I can find the joy, because joy is not reliant upon circumstances to be there. Joy is reliant upon Jesus to be there. And Jesus has been there in the midst of all my difficulties. So let me tell you about my honey. He is a sweet, loving guy. He's funny. I think that's what first drew me to him, was his sense of humor. And now he can be romantic, where in the beginning that wasn't even on the radar at all. Let me tell you about a couple of things he's done for me. Okay, for my 40th birthday, which was a couple decades ago, plus, he knew that as a teenager, I was wild crazy about Paul McCartney. Okay, I got a story for you. You're going to be shocked. When I was 15 years old, my older sister won tickets to see the Rolling Stones in Albany, New York. And she wasn't interested in going, so she gave them to me. And with those tickets came a backdoor pass to meet them in person. And I wasn't crazy about the Rolling Stones. I was crazy about the Beatles. But I wanted to go see them. I mean, there were the Rolling Stones, and plus the Jay and the Americans were going to be there. I'm dating myself big time, but I'm honest about that anyway. But Jay and the Americans were going to be there, and I don't even remember who all. It was a long time ago. But a lot of people I'd like to see. So I got 2 front row seats at this concert. Well, we were late getting there, and when we went in, the people who had won the tickets had already been taken backstage to see the Rolling Stones. So we were disappointed, but we found the local DJ who was running the gig, and we told him, what happened, that we were late. And he brought us back, my girlfriend and I. I had a friend. We weren't really close friends, but she was crazy about the Rolling Stones. So I thought, she's the one I should take. Excuse me. So we went backstage, and we met the Rolling Stones one-on-one. And when we met Mick Jagger, my girlfriend was all agush. She was just crazy about Mick Jagger. And he, spoke to us, and how are you? Glad to meet you. And she was gushing, and she says, can I kiss you? And he said, okay. So he leaned over and he gave her a kiss. And he looked at me and he said, how about you, love? And I said, no thanks, I'm a Beatles fan. So that's how much I loved the Beatles back then, and Paul McCartney in particular. And I have to say, if Paul McCartney had asked me to give him a kiss, I probably would have. But not Mick Jagger. So Mick Jagger, if you're out there somewhere, I'm the one who turned you down. Okay, now back to serious now. Well, back on my 40th birthday, my honey remembered that at one time, now of course that had all passed, I had been a Beatles fan and I was crazy about Paul McCartney. Well, he bought tickets as a surprise to me to see. It was a 4th of July, actually. My birthday's in June, but there was a 4th of July concert, and he had, of course, presented me with the tickets on my birthday, but we went to this 4th of July concert. And there was something about the mix of my husband being so considerate and remembering, and the fact that I was turning 40, but he was bringing me back to my teenage years and my first real celebrity crush, you know. I mean, it happens. It was just the thoughtfulness of it, and that he did that. And he got great joy out of taking me there to see Paul McCartney. It wasn't the same as if I had been a teenager, but I liked his music then, and, you know, I don't dislike it now. So, yeah, okay, I'm still in the world and try not to be of the world, but I always had a little crush on Paul McCartney. So he did that for me, and that was something that in his early days of our marriage, nothing like that would ever cross his mind. And more recently, we loved the movie Shall We Dance with Richard Gere and Susan Sarandon. And I just love that movie. And shortly after we had seen it together, and I had told him how much I love that movie, he said, well, let's sign up and have some dance lessons. And then, because we were going to go on a cruise, and he said, when we go on a cruise, then, you know, maybe we'll know how to dance a little bit. So, yes, we do a little tiny bit of ballroom dancing, a little bit of swing, and a little bit of waltz type thing. Anyway, he suggested we do that, and that was a big surprise for me. But I think the nicest thing he ever did for me in that kind of romantic way was Valentine's Day shortly, well, after that. And I was at work. I was working then in a hospital as the lead transcriptionist, where I got all the work in from the doctors and sent it out to the home transcriptionist, and then was a troubleshooter and found the mistakes and corrections and all that. Well, I was working in the office in the hospital, and my husband comes in, which he never comes to the office. He's dressed in a tuxedo. He has he has one single rose for me. And he walks up to say, Happy Valentine's Day, shall we dance? And if you remember this scene from Shall We Dance with Richard Gere, where he comes up the escalator dressed in the tux with the rose for his wife, right there in front of all her co-workers, God and everybody, to say he loves her. Be still my heart. I mean, that did it for me. That totally did it for me. It was the most romantic thing he ever could have done. And all my co-workers were so jealous. I loved it. And I still think about it now and cherish those moments. So this faith walk has healed this marriage and given me great joy. And, we're still human. We still have our little fights and spats. I can still be the shrew sometimes. He can still be selfish and unthoughtful sometimes. But the Lord is always at work in our hearts, and it's always a matter of us recognizing what we're doing, apologizing, repenting, and turning back to God for help to be the people He wants us to be. But we've come so far, and it's all through the work of God in our hearts. So going on and keeping this a little lighthearted and talking about my honey, because I don't want you to have these negative thoughts of him because I had addressed the troublesome parts of our relationship in the early years. I want to tell you another little story about him and his humor. So we had been out shopping. It was me and two of my daughters and my dad and my husband. And we were in this, it wasn't a mall, it was a strip strip shopping center, where the stores are right next to each other, and you have to walk the sidewalks to get from one to the other. Well, we wanted to have lunch, and there was a Subway and a fast chicken place right next door. Well, my husband wanted chicken, and the rest of us wanted to have Subway. So, four of us, myself included, went into the Subway, and my husband went next door to get chicken. So we all got our orders and sat down, and my husband comes through the door with his chicken and comes over to sit next to us. And the manager of Subway comes over and says, "I'm sorry, you can't bring that in here and eat that in here." And he says, "Well, I'm with them." And, he said, "My whole family ordered." And she says, "No, I'm sorry, you can't do that. You must leave." And he says, "You're kidding me." And she says, "No." And so he leaves, and he's disgruntled. So he goes he goes back into the chicken place, and they had these high stools next to the front pane window where people would sit at a counter and eat. And he was good friends. He was good friends with the guy there. And he said, "Can I borrow one of your stools?" And he said, "Well, yeah." And he takes it outside, comes right next door, plops it right in front of the plain glass window on the sidewalk, where we were looking out that window, sitting at a table right at that window. So he pulls up his stool like he's pulling it up to our table through the pane glass window with people walking by, and he puts his lunch on his on his lap, and he's it was just so funny. And he was, like miming through the window like he's having a conversation with us. And the manager came over, and there wasn't a thing she could do about it. And she was not happy. So, okay. He's a funny guy. Okay, last story. I have a few medical conditions, and I have sleep apnea, for one, severe sleep apnea, and I have to wear this mask at night. It's not the one that covers your mouth, but it has these little prongs that go up my nose and blow air in my nose, and I have this big honking hose that comes around and attaches to a machine, and I can't sleep without it. So every night I'm hooked up to this hosey thing that goes to this machine. And then I went to the dentist, and the dentist told me I was grinding my teeth and I needed to wear this mouth guard at night. So he wanted me to put this mouth guard thing in my mouth. And then I went to the eye doctor, and I have this problem with one of my eyes, that it swells up and is a little lazy like. And he wants me to take this foam sleep mask that has these little water-logged things you heat up in the microwave and then put in the mask to bathe your eyelids in heat so the glands in your eyelids will open up or whatever. So I come home and I'm telling my husband, okay, first I got to wear the sleep apnea apparatus at night. Then the dentist wants me to wear this mouth guard at night. And now my eye doctor's giving me this blindfold to put on at night. And says to me, maybe the blindfold's for me. Yeah, sometimes this humor is a little pointed at me, but it's fun. So we're all complicated people. None of us are one way. None of us are always sweet. None of us are always funny. None of us are always happy. None of us are always reasonable. We're a conglomerate of a bunch of stuff. But letting the Lord in our lives helps us to get it together and let Him show us how to live. And if I had not trusted Him early on, I would have missed out on all this now. In fact, even the history of our bad times binds us now, because we each know we've been through it. We each know we've forgiven each other, and there's nobody else in the world that has that with each other than we do. And we both know it's because of the Lord that happened. And left to our own, we would have separated, maybe repeated the same mistake with others. I don't know. Yeah, but I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. All right, now getting back to our spiritual walk. A verse that comes to mind to me is, walk in the Spirit and you will not fulfill the lusts of the flesh. And I struggled with that because I was always trying not to fulfill the lusts of the flesh so I could be walking in the Spirit. And I would have to battle this temptation and that temptation, or this weakness and that weakness. And I thought, oh, I'll never be able to walk in the Spirit because I just can't. Well, I had it all backwards. It didn't say, don't fulfill the lusts of the flesh and then you'll be walking in the Spirit. It said, walk in the Spirit and you won't fulfill the lusts of the flesh. So how do we walk in the Spirit? Well, if you're watching the Big Family Homestead's faith Bible studies at 10:30 on the Homestead Network every weekday, Eastern Time, Brad addressed this just recently. I love those studies. Brad, I feel such a kindred spirit with him when he does these studies because I'm right there with him as far as understanding where he's coming from. But he recently said we need to put on the whole armor of God, and the sword of the Spirit is like one of the first things, the sword of the Spirit, which is his word. And another verse that kind of marries with this one is, I've hidden thy word in my heart that I might not sin against thee. So I think getting in the word every day, it's a living word. It's not a dead word. It's a living word in that God's Spirit can move through it as we read it, especially if we've given our hearts to him. So that's my encouragement, that I need to get into my Bible every day and let the Lord speak to my heart. And even if I don't find a message that day that strikes me, down the road when a temptation comes up, I'm prepared with the sword in my spirit, because I'll have a verse come up that, and give me strength and give me power as part of the armor of God to overcome whatever temptation that might be confronting me, or disappointment or difficulty. It also says it also says resist the devil and he will flee from you. So we need to stand our ground in those times and not give in to weakness, because we don't fight flesh and blood. We fight principalities and powers in the air. Many times when we're at war or an argument with someone else, it's not that person that's really doing this. It's the principalities and powers of the air. It's the evil one who's trying to throw a monkey wrench into everything. And if we can identify the enemy, we have a whole lot more success in defeating him. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Another verse I hold close is, I think it's Micah 1:8 or Micah 1:6. It says, rejoice not against me, O mine enemy, because when I fall, I shall arise. So even when we stumble, get back up. The Lord will take our hand and pull us to our feet. And if it's a cause of sin, repent. Don't forget that part of salvation. It isn't just taking everything. It's turning from the things you know are wrong as God leads you. So, the path may be narrow, but it is straight. And God is with you all the way. And it doesn't mean you don't love others or understand the fallen. It means you care about them and love them just like God does. And you're a beggar that found some bread and you want to share the bread. That's the humble and contrite heart we're to have as we walk this walk and this journey. So I'm going to end it there. Hopefully this is a more lighthearted one. People have been leaving comments that they need tissues on a lot of my other ones. I do too. I still cry at a lot of those. But I'm going to end it there. I'm not sure which direction this series is going to take. I'd like to read your comments and have you tell me, what you'd like to know about or hear. And I also, on my other parts of my channel where I do the homesteading things with canning and gardening and sewing and all that, I'd like to have you go over there and give me a few comments on what you'd like to see there too. I recently put up, some crochet things I made, and like I said, the canning videos and all. Or just let me know what you like to see, because I want to do a good job with this channel and I want to be led by the Lord in what I do, but I'm also interested in, what your needs are. So please, yeah, let me know. So thanks for watching, and I think there'll be a part 9 and 10 and so on, but I'm just not sure which direction it's going to go from here on in. So let me know. Bye bye.